Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. Today, we have another fantastic guest and a friend of mine, and I'm joined today by Gary Meyer. And Gary's a little bit of information about Gary. He assists health conscious people to overcome their health issues with professional iridology readings and individual holistic detox programs. And you can follow Gary. I'm just looking at your Instagram here. Gary Meyer on Instagram, Fruitful Solution, at
Yeah.
Fruitful Solution. They want to follow you on Instagram. So, Gary, I've obviously hung around with you a couple of times at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, which I know you've been to quite a bunch of times, and I know you love that. But I was curious, is there anything, well, firstly, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself in introduction before we start going into some more questions?
Um, no, I think you did a good job on that. So
Nice.
we can go from there.
So I often ask people, you're obviously now on a lifestyle that's quite alternative to what a lot of people do. Now,
Yeah.
did you grow up like that? Have you been brought up in an alternative way at all, or did you have a conventional upbringing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Hmm? So yeah, I grew up in northern Germany, but just on a very standard lifestyle like most of us.
Hmm.
So there was no like alternative lifestyle in my family at all.
Hmm.
Um, so I just grew up eating everything, like animal products as well, and just a lot of like not so optimal foods, I would say.
Right,
Uh, but I never really liked the taste of meat, like
right.
since I can remember. So I was always like kind of avoiding that. But maybe like as a child, you sometimes have to eat what's on the plate, and your parents make you eat it.
Sure.
But I was never a fan of that. And yeah, then when I was 17, I decided to go vegetarian and cut out all meats.
Right, right. And what inspired you to do that, age 17?
It was just at that time, it was just the taste. It was no like ethical reasons or so behind that at that point. But once I transitioned to a vegetarian diet, I heard about veganism and I started reading a lot of books about it and watching like all the documentaries, like Earthlings and all of that. And very soon I was so inspired by that it was very clear for me that I wanted to transition to a vegan diet. So and then what I did was I gave myself like 1 year of time to transition from vegetarianism to veganism. And every month I would just look for some products that I could exchange to a vegan option or alternative. So that was very easy for my body and for my mind to adapt to that in that
Wow,
way.
that's really smart. You gave yourself a year and you just started to make little adjustments.
Yeah, it was super easy.
And
And yeah,
what age was that at? Sorry, I think I missed that.
oh, no problem. So yeah, I would say like vegetarian for half a year at age of 17.
Hmm.
And then I decided to go vegan. So by 18, I would say I was completely vegan.
What made you what made you change to vegan? Had you learned more about it then, or any?
Yeah, that like all the ethical reasons came in as well. Like I didn't want any animal to die just for my pleasure of eating and the taste and everything. But also health reasons, but mostly ethical reasons at that time, I would say.
Right, right. And at that point in your life, were you still studying? Were you working? What were you doing?
I was working at a gym of my dad, so I was always kind of in the health scene in that way. Of course, we know like a lot of those diets that are associated with gym are not that healthy as well. But yeah, at that time I already learned about veganism, and that so yeah, that went really well for me. So I was working out every day as well at the gym, and I felt like more energy than before.
Right.
So yeah.
Have you always been into fitness?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
whole life, because I grew up with my dad. He had the gym for like over 30 years, and yeah, in that way I was always
Is that like
like doing,
a professional gym that he runs or he did run?
yeah.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Oh, I
Yeah.
never knew that. That's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what started the path towards more of a fruit-based diet?
So yeah, I was living a vegan lifestyle with like cooked food and everything for a few years, and then I would always like watch YouTube videos, and at some point I came across a video of Douglas Graham and his 80-10-10 approach.
Hmm.
So yeah, that really inspired me to like try out a raw vegan diet more and
Hmm.
more, and transition to that over the course of half a year. And but in the beginning I incorporated like a lot of nuts and seeds, you know.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
at the beginning it felt good, but then over time I was like feeling pretty heavy from that.
Right, right.
Yeah, and then I read the 80-10-10 book, and like excluded a lot of nuts and seeds, and were more going to the fruity side of life. And yeah.
Yeah, so do you remember what video it was that caught your attention and what was it about it that sort of made you think about going towards
I
raw?
don't remember like the actual video, but yeah, it was just a video in general about his approach.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, that that sounded like so good, and
Yeah.
he seemed to have like so much energy as well. Like he was doing some exercises there, and that just was really great. And
Yeah. It
I
sounds
wanted to
like yeah, it sounds like it sounds like you gave yourself time with that as well. Like you weren't trying to force yourself into it. It sounds like you said you gave yourself 6 months or something or
yeah, like from vegan to raw vegan, I gave myself half a year. And then I was living too, like I would say half a year or so, like with more veggies and nuts and seeds and some fruits, of course, as well. But after that, like I was transitioning more to a fruit-based lifestyle, and I saw like really amazing changes from that. Then, like with every step I took, like
yeah.
my energy increased, my like sharpness of mind increased,
Hmm.
and all of that. So yeah.
Excellent. Where were you living at that point?
At that point, I was still living in Germany. So like basically my whole transition, and then also with the fruit-based diet, I was living in Germany for a few years. Let's say like 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
What part of Germany are you from?
It's the northern part, close to Hamburg, like 1 hour
Right.
away from Hamburg.
Right. That's cool. Did you find it a challenge to transition to a more of a raw diet in Germany?
Yeah, for sure, because the quality of produce, especially fruits and tropical fruits, is not the best, and it's pretty expensive.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was at some point, I always looked for like options that are available and to make it happen in the best way. So I found an ordering club online where you could like order tropical fruits from Sri Lanka, and I did that like once a week or every 2 weeks, and
Nice.
that saved me, especially in the winter time, a lot. And
Great.
yeah, but it's very expensive, and that makes it a little more challenging for sure.
Tell me about the transition, like when you went uh, from to a raw diet. Did you find the change quite different to, for example, when you changed to a vegetarian diet? Was it more of a dramatic change, or was it similar, or was it more difficult? Tell me a little bit about that.
Hmm. Yeah, no. So from a standard lifestyle to vegetarian was very easy for me because, like I said, I didn't like the taste of meat, so that was
Yeah,
just yeah, that was really easy for me. Then to vegan with this transitioning time and all the options and stuff, that was easy too. But then to a raw diet, it was more difficult for me because you know, we have so many like emotional bonds with certain foods, and it was in the beginning it was harder to come up with like alternatives that would satiate me in the same way. And yeah, you have to just like investigate a little bit of time and experiment here and there to come up with solutions for that.
yeah,
And yeah, of course your whole body has to adapt to that lifestyle as well, and like your microbiome and all of that. So um, in that way, it was definitely harder because it's also more detoxifying, and you like experience more healing symptoms, for example, than if you go to a vegan diet, because it still includes like a lot of cooked foods and all of that that is not triggering the
right.
detoxification and to that degree. And
Yeah. Is
yeah,
detoxification something that's like an area of kind of interest for you?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It came up at the first, no, not at the first Woodstock. I would say even before that, but uh, like when I was at the first Woodstock, it got like really triggered, and my interest in that grew more and more to learn a lot in that direction. That's also when I learned about Dr. Robert Morse and his approach about detoxification, and yeah, that was really interesting to me.
Can you give us an overview of what that means, and like, well, what's your thoughts on detoxification and the Robert Morse way of looking at things?
Mm-hmm. So basically, we have two sides to chemistry, right? We have we have the alkaline side and we have the acidic side, and our body should always be in a kind of state of balance between those.
Mhm.
And we regulate the so-called pH factor, or the chemistry in our body by what we eat, or what we consume, what we put on our skin, and also what kind of thoughts we have, or the degree of stress we have in our life.
Mhm.
And certain foods and thoughts, like negative thoughts and a lot of stress, and animal products or cooked foods, or just in general processed foods, are more on the acidic side of chemistry, which causes dehydration and accumulation and a mucus response in the body. And these kinds of mucus that gets um, deeper and deeper into the tissue when we not clean it out, or have like a balanced diet or a healthy diet. And that can cause a lot of issues over time, basically all kinds of symptoms that we see in today's world, because it's just, I mean, we have all these different diseases, but basically they're all caused by the same thing, which is an over acidic body.
Mhm.
um, but then it's just a matter of degree and location in the body,
Mhm.
like and that like triggers certain symptoms then over time. So with detoxification, when we know that the acidic side causes all of that, then we can just go more to a balanced, or more on the alkaline side, and to a balanced diet and approach. to like reverse that, and then the body is able to regenerate itself as well.
Right,
It's not
right.
just going down, we can
Yeah.
also go up again.
And do you think that a person's like constantly like it's when does that stop? Like when does a person? Because sometimes I feel like people are on a continuous path of like trying to keep clean, like they get obsessed almost with like trying to clean themselves out over and over and over and over, and like, do you think it's something that people need to be concerned about like that, or do you think if you go on a kind of a fruit-based diet for a while that you kind of you naturally just deal with all that? And what's your thoughts? I don't know if that makes sense, that question, but
No, it makes definitely sense. But, I totally see that as well a lot of times. But of course, like we have to remember, like we were living a standard lifestyle for so long, for like years or decades, and of course, it takes more than like a month or so on a proper detox protocol
mm-hmm,
to like get rid of all the stuff we accumulated or we did to our body in the course of all of that time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So for most people, it can definitely take a few years to get back on track or to a better state and a state of balance. But what I also see is that people are, like you said, they are always concerned about like cleaning out and going deeper and deeper. And of course, that has its place. But if it becomes a religion, then it's not really healthy as well, because then we create like a ceiling for ourselves, and then healing becomes our priority in general in life.
Mm-hmm.
And when we prioritize that, I totally believe like what we think and what kind of beliefs we have about ourselves and our world is making up our reality. And
Right,
if we like prioritize healing and we make that our like top priority, then we always have something to heal.
right,
So it would never stop.
right. That's awesome, man. Do you work on like the mindset kind of thing and give us some tips on how do you like, it's almost like you're talking about manifestation or something. Like what do you do for that?
So some general tips or advices I would give on that, if you want to manifest a really amazing lifestyle or an amazing life in general, um, is to always follow your excitement on a moment-to-moment basis. Because in my opinion, excitement is a state of frequency. It's a state, and that is the state of our core being, like our natural state. So it always wants to come back to that state, and that's why it feels so good to be like excited about something.
Right.
And yeah, in each moment we have different options what we can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we have 10 options, and number one feels like so exciting that we feel like it's so out of our comfort zone that we don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But then we have like middle range options that feel still like really exciting, but we feel more comfortable with them. And then on the low end, we have like things that we feel like we have to do and we don't really want to do them. So when we always would choose like the highest excitement, our growth would be immense. But then if we go for the middle range and it's still exciting, our frequency over time would still go up and up and up. But if we always choose the low end, and yeah, we always choose what we think we have to do because other people tell us that it's the best or whatever, then our frequency goes down and down and down, and we feel less satisfied in life, and yeah, become depressed and all of that at some point. So yeah, if we always follow our excitement, even though we might have like a big goal that we want to manifest, but that is not available to us right now, we just have that and we let it go, and then we focus on what is exciting now, what is available now, because the common factor is the excitement, right? You're probably excited about your big goal, because otherwise it wouldn't be there.
Right.
And so when we have that common factor, each step, like the moment to moment excitement, will eventually lead you to the big goal, even though the things might not have something in common.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds similar. I used to listen to a guy who channeled like an alien called Bashar, and uh,
Exactly.
and it was he would talk about stuff like that, like following your excitement. It's I think that's been in the back of my mind. But it's always like kind of it's funny that thing, like you can get into this flow of following excitement, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can easily like get scared or like stop and then fall out of it or something, and trying to find
Yeah.
it again can be try. I don't know if someone could totally stay in that all the time, or if someone could train themselves to do that. Like that'd be
I think
interesting.
it's just yeah, it's just the process of getting used to it.
Right,
It's like
right.
a like everything. And then also when we become scared or we feel like anxiety or something, then also one of my um, main focuses is like the emotional guiding system, which I was learning about last year, and it's quite amazing because most of the times we don't really know what are emotions, what are they good for, and how can we work with them, right?
Yeah.
And the emotional detox and all of that is also a big factor in the whole process of our life. And because most people just, I would say, like avoid like all of that and suppress that either with like food or
Hmm.
drugs or alcohol, all of that stuff, or just distractions like watching TV or listening to music or
Hmm.
whatever. All of that can be a distraction um, to not focus or not have to face your true self or what is deep down there. And then when we understand emotions more and more, it can become a really amazing guiding system, which brings us back more and more into our own alignment and yeah, make us feel really, really good in the end in that way. Because
Hmm.
mm, let's let's say like you face a situation or you have an experience that doesn't feel good to you, feels bad. Um, then what happens is basically that you can imagine like if we want to call it God or whatever you want to call it, and you imagine it like the ocean and it flows in one direction, and each of us is a single stream in that ocean,
Yeah.
and now you have a situation that doesn't feel good to you, and remembering like every situation we face is basically neutral and we just give it the meaning, because it's just a matter of perspective in the end. A certain situation can appear to one person like a really bad situation, and to the other person it might be a really good situation. So it's always just perspective. And if we are a single stream in that ocean of the infinite, of the all, of everything, of God, and we feel bad and have a situation that we're facing, that is basically like we are swimming against the ocean. because we believe in a concept about ourselves or about that situation that is not true. Because if it would be true, then it would feel good.
Yeah.
And then if we realize that more and more, we can more easily let that go.
Yeah. So, do you think that the journey of detox for the raw vegan diet is similar, has a connection with emotional detox or maybe even spiritual detox in some way? And like, have those things went hand in hand? Were you always sort of on that kind of path, or do you want to?
No, absolutely not.
Oh wow.
I was never into like spirituality or anything like that before I transitioned to a raw diet.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then when I did that, it like triggered it so much. It was like overflowing me in a sense, and
Yeah.
I wasn't able to stop that. So I think it really goes hand in hand, because when we look at fruits and that everything is just in the end is frequency.
Mm,
Fruits have such a high frequency, and we introduce that into our bodies more
right.
and more,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it's definitely different than introducing basically dead foods or really altered foods
Mm, mm.
that are like cooked, and with cooking you just basically kill the foods
I'd
and
like
the
to
food.
ask. I'd like to ask you to talk a bit more about that. Like, what was the awakening that you had? What was that? What did that feel like? Because I've had experiences. I've talked to a lot of people that have had experiences as well when they've went on a raw vegan diet. They've had emotional experiences, feelings of more connectedness.
Yeah.
They've been inspired to start going down a more spiritual path, holistic, or yeah, like getting more in touch with their true self, sort of thing, basically. And I'd like to hear a bit more about your thoughts, your story on that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was basically the same for me. Like out of a sudden, or I mean, it was a gradual process as well, and it's still like that. It gets more and more intense over time. But I also felt more and more connected to just everything. Um, it Yeah, I felt more love inside of me, whereas beforehand, like on a standard diet back then, I was at a point where I was really depressed, and um, yeah, I was struggling a lot with that, and thought I would not have like a real place here in life and everything. And now I can see more and more clearly like how interconnected everything is, and
Mm,
how perfectly aligned everything is basically. Also these like hard situations and all of that, because it's always like just a learning, and
mm,
from those like really triggering situations we can learn the most. And now it's basically just like that. I'm more and more aware of that, and about these processes and the situations I face, and I see how connected they are to my personal journey and what I have to learn from them. And in that way it gets easier. And also from that, when you realize that more, those situations don't have to show up that much anymore, and your life becomes just, I would say, more positive in that way, because you internally go through more and more processes before they would have to manifest in your reality as a situation, because you already dealt with it in your mind. So I would say that is yeah, like we all only have to face these situations if we weren't able to face them in on our mental or emotional level, because in this reality it's just right in your face, and at some
yeah.
point you will definitely get it, what the is, because if you don't get it, the situations will become more and more intense. And I think most of us experience something like that in our lives.
Right. So basically, I think what I'm picking up from you is as you detox on the diet, you get rid of these foods that can potentially numb you from the experience of your own emotions, that these emotions come up stronger and you have to learn to deal with them. Is that a little bit, am I taking that in right?
Yeah, and like I said, then just using these emotions like a guiding system to realign yourself,
Right.
because every emotion in that sense, is just a sign of um, you having a concept about yourself or a situation that is not true. And then, like I said, you can let go of that. And if you follow that path to the end, it will lead you to a very balanced and stable state of consciousness, which is more and more just towards love, because love in the end is not an emotion, it's a state.
Right.
It's
Cool.
like our core frequency, our core state.
Nice. Nice. Do you practice meditation?
Yeah, every day.
Any specific style or something you've come across yourself or?
Mm, I'm following a lot like the teachings of Bentinho Massaro. I
Oh
don't know if,
yeah, I've heard of him.
yeah, and also his meditation techniques. I mean, it's not like his meditation practices or techniques. Those are around for like, I don't know, thousands of years probably.
Right, right.
But yeah, just getting into, of course, a relaxation or relaxed position, and then closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and then focusing or trying to focus, because in the beginning it's not that easy, just on, first of all, on your emotions, on all the sensations around you, and then your thoughts, and then being more and more aware that you are observing, you can observe all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So none of those things are you in that sense, not your emotions and not your thoughts either. So there is something that is observing all of that, and that is, in my opinion, that is the real you. And then what you try is to just be in that presence, like being that observer.
Yeah.
And that is quite an amazing state. And yeah, that's what I'm practicing right now. And then there are further steps to it, to go even deeper and deeper. Basically, you just come more and more to your true self, to yeah, your higher self, or what you want to call it, and then basically to like a more God kind of
Yeah.
consciousness.
So let's get back to your story a little bit. I mean, for what we got to, you went raw. It took you a while to do that, and you learned from Doug Graham. You learned from Robert Morse as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in Germany. I don't believe. I think you don't live in Germany now.
No,
And
that's
uh,
correct.
so, but you went to Woodstock. I think you've went to Robert Morse's stuff. You've traveled. I don't know if you've done some traveling and things. What of those? Tell us a little bit about your adventures.
Yeah, in 2017, I did the level 1 class of Dr. Morse, but I did that from home. And then 2018, I did the live class in Florida. So I went there for a week and did the intensive class with like 150 other people, which was really incredible. It was like a Woodstock kind of feeling.
Mm,
Uh, and that's where I learned more and more about the iridology. I mean, I was into that beforehand as well, but that got like really intensified in that class. And then at the end of the year, I moved to Paraguay, where I'm currently living for like 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that basically, yeah, because of the climate, because I think that we as humans don't really belong into those like northern um, like parts
Yeah,
of the world
yeah.
where it's cold in wintertime and we don't get
Mm-hmm.
really a lot of foods. And here I can like grow everything all year round. And yeah, the quality of fruit is really amazing and it's cheaper, of course. So yeah,
And
um,
yeah, sorry.
no problem. And yeah, and then of course I went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Yeah, like 4, 5 times now, and that really changed my whole life
Yeah,
because I know,
yeah, tell me a bit more about that.
yeah, like I watched a video about that on YouTube, and I immediately knew like I want to go there the next year that it happens, and that was 2016 when I went there for the first time. And yeah, it's just the most incredible week of
Mm-hmm.
the whole year for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like every time I went there, it was really life changing. And when I went there the first time, it inspired me to move to the tropics. And I talked to a lot of people about that there. And yeah, it's just so cool because everyone there is just supporting you in whatever idea you have about your life. You know, back
Yeah.
in Germany, when I talked to people about that, they were all like, "Oh no, and what if?" and "Oh, that is stupid." And yeah, and at Woodstock, it's just like, "Oh yeah, go for it. That's amazing." And yeah, you get just so inspired, and the whole energy, of course, there is so incredible, and you get to know so many people just from one week over the
Yeah,
whole world. And after a week, you have friends all over the place. And
incredible. Yeah,
yeah, it's just amazing.
amazing
And
environment.
yeah, for me, or that became like family to me, like all
Sure,
the people.
sure, sure. Yeah, I can see you getting so excited about that. Like you're talking about the excitement,
Yeah,
like you look happy.
I'm
I do like
grateful.
sometimes if I'm trying to like relax during exercise or different things, if I'm in a stressful situation, like I'll visualize myself at Woodstock because it's like a happy
Yeah,
place.
yeah, me too.
uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, what are you doing now? Like you're helping people out with detoxification, with iridology. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, how you can help people?
Hmm. Yes, so I'm offering in-depth iridology readings. So people just send me their eye pictures basically, and I do the reading for them. Because it's if someone doesn't know what iridology is, it's like examining the whole body through the iris,
Hmm.
and all like every cell in our body is reflected in the iris through the nervous system, like going to the brain and then to the optic nerve. And
Uh-huh.
it's basically like a monitor of the whole body. And each eye represents one side of the body. And we can see like blockages, lymphatic blockages, or cellular weaknesses in there. Um, and in that way you get like a really detailed look into the body and what's going on, and then we can of course uh, create a proper and really accurate program, an individual program for that person to overcome like certain issues, certain symptoms, or also prevent future like symptoms.
Hmm.
Because what you can see there doesn't necessarily mean that if there is showing up like a kidney weakness, for example, that the person now has a kidney problem or a symptom that is showing up, but it can potentially be in the future. So, and then we can just prevent that by changing the lifestyle habits and the routines of that person. And yeah, so it doesn't
Awesome.
get experience that.
And if people want to get in touch with you and find out more about how you can help them, where would they go?
Either on Instagram, like you said in the introduction, Fruitful Solution, or just on my website. It's fruitfulsolution.com, and there you can get a lot of information. You can message me there as well, or you can just book my services, of course.
Well, awesome. And just to start to kind of finish off, what would be your kind of advice for people that are starting off on this journey to better health?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, don't really stress anything. I see a lot of people like they have certain issues, and then they hear about this lifestyle, for example, and they just jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of people then after a while just like struggling so much because they didn't go through each step and just gave up everything, like, and still have like a lot of emotional bonds or cravings like addictions and stuff, and then the potential to fall back is like really high. Of course, if a person has like a really heavy symptom and it's like life threatening, then you don't want to play around too much. You just want to dive into it. But if it's not that heavy, you definitely want to go, or that would be my recommendation, like going step by step and give yourself time and not rush anything. I think that's really important to just have a really good foundation and to build on that.
I think that's great, and I'd like the fact that a number of times in this conversation you've mentioned that when you made your decision to change your diet, you never really put yourself under any time pressure, and you basically said, "I'll do this over the course of a year, over 6 months." I think
Yeah.
that shows a lot of wisdom, because I think a lot of people do that thing of like going to Woodstock or something, and they're like, right, I'm a raw vegan now, I'm never eating cooked food again. And you're like, well, you 7 days ago, like you you were eating everything else, and all of a sudden, and a lot of people don't carry that on for very long. And I think I'm quite like you in that approach of like, it takes time to really change yourself and rebuild your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Well,
is really important.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Gary. And everyone, if you want to check out more of what Gary's doing, go to @FruitfulSolution on Instagram, and you can follow him there. He's got a lot of excellent posts and information, so you can check him out there. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. Feel free to share it with other people, or rate it, or like it. Send us comments and information or whatever. And if you want to stay in touch, subscribe at fruitfest.co.uk, and you can stay in touch with, we'll send you more notifications about future episodes of the podcast. Thank you very much, Gary. Hope to see you in the future. And any last words for the listeners?
Yeah, just I wish everyone just the best of health. We all deserve to feel well. That's what it's all about. We all want to feel good. Just always follow what you feel the best about when it comes to your health, to your diet. Listen to your body, and after every meal, just check in with your body, how it reacts to it. Does it really feel good, or is it just a pleasure of taste? And ask yourself, like, is it worth um, to just have that pleasure and taste for a few minutes or seconds even, or just your overall state of well-being, you're feeling good. And
Yeah, amazing, man. Thank you so much for your time, and
thank you for having
thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll see you on another episode of the Love Fruit podcast.
me.